What if every gut feeling you've ever had was actually a divine message? What if every inexplicable knowing, every sudden clarity, every moment of certainty that couldn't be explained by logic was God speaking directly to you? Not to someone else, not to the saints, not to the chosen few, to you, right here, right now, through the language of intuition. You've spent your whole life learning to trust everything except yourself. Trust the experts. Trust the authorities. Trust the data. Trust the research. Trust what everyone else thinks. And in doing that, you've disconnected from the most profound source of wisdom you'll ever have access to. The divine doesn't speak in thunderbolts, doesn't announce itself with fanfare, doesn't show up in ways that make sense to your rational mind. It whispers, it nudges, it creates feelings in your body that you can't explain. It gives you knowings that defy logic, and you've been trained to ignore all of it. Think about the last time you had a strong feeling about something, a feeling that couldn't be justified, couldn't be explained. You just knew. Maybe it was about a person. Maybe it was about a decision. Maybe it was about a direction you needed to take. And what did you do? You doubted it. You questioned it. You looked for proof. You asked for validation from everyone around you. Because somewhere along the way, you learned that your inner knowing doesn't count unless someone else confirms it. That's the tragedy of modern life. We've become so sophisticated, so educated, so rational that we've lost touch with the most ancient form of communication that exists. The direct line between you and the divine, the channel that's always open, the guidance that's always available, your intuition. Let me tell you something that might shake up everything you believe. You are not separate from God. You never were. You never will be. The divine isn't somewhere out there, watching you from a distance, occasionally throwing you a bone of wisdom when you pray hard enough. The divine is in you, as you, expressing through you. And the primary way it communicates with you is through your intuition. But you've been taught to distrust it. You've been conditioned to second-guess it. You've been trained to believe that if something can't be proven, measured, or explained, it's not real. And in accepting that belief, you've cut yourself off from the most powerful guidance system you possess. Your intuition isn't random. It's not wishful thinking. It's not your imagination playing tricks on you. It's information, pure information coming from a source that has access to everything, past, present, future, seen and unseen, known and unknown. The field of infinite intelligence that some call God, some call the universe, some call source. The name doesn't matter. What matters is that it's real, and it's speaking to you constantly. Every time you get a feeling about someone and can't explain why, every time you know something is wrong even though everything looks fine, every time you feel pulled in a direction that doesn't make logical sense, every time you have a sudden insight that solves a problem you've been wrestling with for months, that's not coincidence. That's not luck. That's divine communication happening in real time. But you dismiss it. You rationalize it away. You tell yourself you're being paranoid or irrational or emotional. You trust the voices outside of you more than the voice inside of you. And then, later, when everything plays out exactly as your intuition warned you, you say, I knew it. I felt it. Why didn't I listen? How many times have you said that? How many times have you ignored your inner knowing only to regret it later? How many relationships did you stay in too long because your mind told you to give it another chance even though your gut was screaming at you to leave? How many opportunities did you pass up because they didn't make sense on paper even though something inside you was pulling you toward them? How many decisions did you make based on what you thought you should do instead of what you felt called to do? Every single time you ignored your intuition, you paid a price. Maybe it was a small price. Maybe it was enormous. But there was always a cost. Because when you disconnect from divine guidance, you're navigating life blind. You're trying to figure everything out with your limited human mind. And your mind, brilliant as it is, doesn't have access to the information your intuition does. Your mind knows what it knows. Your intuition knows what it knows and what you don't know yet. Your mind operates from past experience and learned patterns. Your intuition operates from infinite intelligence. Your mind tries to protect you based on fear and conditioning. Your intuition guides you toward your highest good even when it feels uncomfortable. This is why your intuition will sometimes lead you in directions that terrify your mind. Your mind wants safety, wants certainty, wants proof. Your intuition wants growth, wants truth, wants alignment with your deepest purpose. And those two things don't always match up. When your intuition tells you to leave the stable job for the uncertain opportunity, your mind panics. When your intuition tells you to end the comfortable relationship that's slowly killing your soul, your mind lists all the reasons why you should stay. When your intuition tells you to speak your truth, even though it might cost you relationships, your mind warns you of all the dangers. And most of the time, you listen to your mind. Because your mind is loud. Your mind is urgent. Your mind creates scenarios and worst-case situations that feel so real you can't see past them. Your intuition, on the other hand, is quiet. It doesn't argue. It doesn't fight for your attention. It simply knows. And then it waits for you to catch up. But here's what you need to understand. Every time you choose your mind over your intuition, you're choosing fear over faith. You're choosing limitation over expansion. You're choosing the known over the divine plan that's unfolding for you. And there's always a cost. The cost isn't always immediate. Sometimes it takes years to see what you lost by not listening. Sometimes you wake up at 40, 50, 60 years old and realize you've built an entire life based on what you thought you should do instead of what you felt called to do. You've married the person who made sense on paper instead of the one who made your soul come alive. You've pursued the career that impressed others instead of the one that fulfilled you. You've lived by everyone else's rules instead of your own inner compass. And then you wonder why you feel empty, why you feel disconnected, why you feel like something's missing even though you did everything right. It's because you did everything right according to external standards, but you ignored the internal guidance that was trying to lead you to something far greater. God speaks through intuition. Let that sink in. The creator of the universe, the intelligence behind everything that exists, speaks to you through your intuition, not through complicated rituals, not through ancient texts that need interpretation, not through intermediaries who claim to have special access. Directly, personally, intimately, through the quiet voice inside you. But you have to learn to hear it. And more importantly, you have to learn to trust it. Because in a world that values logic over feeling, proof over knowing, external validation over internal guidance, trusting your intuition is an act of faith. It's an act of rebellion. It's an act of deep spiritual courage. You're going against everything you've been taught. You're defying the collective conditioning that says you can't trust yourself. You're claiming a direct relationship with the divine that doesn't need anyone's approval or permission, and that threatens the structures built on the premise that you need someone else to tell you what's true. But you don't. You never did. You have access to truth. Direct access. Right now, in this moment, through your intuition. The question is, are you willing to trust it? Are you willing to honor it even when everyone around you thinks you're crazy? Are you willing to follow it even when you can't explain it? Are you willing to let it guide you even when it leads you away from what's comfortable and familiar? Because that's what it takes. Real trust. Real faith. Real commitment to your inner guidance. And it's not easy. Your ego will fight you. Your conditioning will resist. Your fear will try to convince you that you're making a mistake. Everyone around you who's operating from their own fear and conditioning will project their doubts onto you. They'll tell you you're being impulsive. They'll tell you you're not thinking clearly. They'll tell you you're making a huge mistake. And part of you will wonder if they're right. Part of you will second-guess yourself. Part of you will want to go back to the safety of doing what makes sense to everyone else. But if you can stay connected to that inner knowing, if you can keep listening to that quiet voice, if you can trust that divine guidance even when it doesn't make sense, you'll discover something incredible. Your intuition is never wrong. It might be uncomfortable. It might be inconvenient. It might turn your whole life upside down. But it's never wrong. Every time you've truly followed your intuition, truly honored that deep knowing inside you, things have worked out. Maybe not in the way you expected. Maybe not in the timeline you wanted. But they worked out because when you align with divine guidance, you align with a plan that's far greater than anything your limited mind could devise. Your intuition knows the path. Your intuition knows the timing. Your intuition knows the people you need to meet, the lessons you need to learn, the experiences you need to have. It's all there, all mapped out. Not in a rigid, predetermined way, but in a fluid, dynamic way that responds to your choices and your growth. But you have to participate. You have to listen. You have to act. You can't just wait for God to drop opportunities in your lap while you ignore the inner promptings that are guiding you toward those opportunities. Divine guidance requires your cooperation, your willingness, your trust. And here's where most people get stuck. They want the outcome without the uncertainty. They want the destination without the journey. They want the guarantee before they take the leap. But that's not how faith works. That's not how intuition works. That's not how God works. You get the next step. That's it. One step at a time. One intuitive hit. One inner knowing. One divine nudge. And you have to take that step before the next one reveals itself. You have to trust that step even when you can't see where it's leading. You have to honor that guidance even when it feels like you're walking off a cliff. Because sometimes you are walking off a cliff. Sometimes following your intuition means letting go of everything you thought you knew. Everything you thought you needed. Everything you thought would keep you safe. And that's terrifying. Your mind will scream. Your ego will panic. Everyone around you will think you've lost it. But your soul will know. Your soul will recognize truth. Your soul will feel the rightness of it even when nothing about it feels right to your human self. And if you can stay connected to that deeper knowing, if you can trust that soul-level guidance, you'll discover that you're not falling, you're flying. This is the spiritual path. Not the one laid out in books or taught in institutions. The one that's unique to you. The one that's whispered in your intuition. The one that only you can walk because it was designed specifically for your growth, your purpose, your evolution. And God is speaking to you about that path every single day. Through your intuition, through your gut feelings, through your sudden knowings, through your dreams, through your synchronicities, through the way certain things make you feel alive and other things drain your energy. It's all communication. It's all guidance. It's all divine intelligence trying to lead you home to yourself. But you have to clear the static. You have to quiet the noise. You have to create space for that still small voice to be heard. Because in a world that's constantly bombarding you with information, opinions, and demands on your attention, your intuition gets drowned out. It's still there. It's still speaking. But you can't hear it over the chaos. This is why meditation matters. Why silence matters. Why solitude matters. Not because there's something wrong with noise and activity and connection, but because your intuition speaks in the quiet spaces, in the gaps between thoughts, in the stillness beneath the surface of your busy mind. When you create that, the space, when you turn inward instead of constantly looking outward, when you value your inner knowing as much as external information, something shifts. You start to hear, you start to feel, you start to know. And the more you honor that knowing, the stronger it becomes. Your intuition is like a muscle. The more you use it, the more developed it gets. The more you trust it, the clearer it becomes. The more you act on it, the more frequently it speaks to you. Because divine intelligence responds to your willingness. It meets you where you are. It gives you what you're ready to receive. If you constantly ignore your intuition, it will eventually stop bothering you with guidance you're not going to follow anyway. Not because God abandons you, but because you've abandoned yourself. You've chosen to operate from your limited human mind instead of infinite divine wisdom. And the universe respects your free will. Always. But the moment you turn back toward your inner guidance, the moment you say, I'm ready to listen, I'm ready to trust, I'm ready to follow where you lead me, the communication opens back up. The guidance becomes clear again. The knowing returns. Because it was always there. You just weren't paying attention. And once you start paying attention, once you start honoring your intuition, once you start making decisions based on that inner knowing instead of external expectations, your life changes. Not overnight, not magically, but gradually, consistently, undeniably, things start falling into place. Doors start opening, people start showing up, opportunities start appearing, not because you suddenly got lucky, but because you're finally aligned. You're finally cooperating with the divine plan instead of fighting against it. You're finally flowing with the current instead of swimming upstream. You're finally trusting the intelligence that created you to guide you, This is what it means to have faith. Real faith. Not blind belief in something you hope is true, but lived experience of divine guidance working in your life. Evidence that accumulates over time as you follow your intuition and watch how things unfold. Proof that emerges not from external validation but from internal confirmation. You know you're on the right path because it feels right. Not comfortable. Not easy. But right. Aligned. True. There's a quality to it that your mind can't fake and your ego can't manufacture. It's the feeling of being in flow, being in sync with something larger than yourself, being carried by a current that knows where it's going even when you don't. And the more you experience that, the less you need anyone else to tell you what's true for you. The less you need external validation. The less you need proof and certainty and guarantees. Because you have something better. You have direct access to divine guidance. You have an internal compass that's always pointing you toward your highest good. You have God speaking to you through your intuition. This is your birthright. This is what you came here with. This connection. This guidance. This inner knowing. It was never meant to be conditional or limited or available only to special people who met certain requirements. It's universal. It's constant. It's yours. But you have to claim it. You have to honor it. You have to trust it more than you trust the fear and doubt and conditioning that tell you you can't trust yourself. You have to be willing to look foolish, to be misunderstood, to stand alone if necessary. Because following divine guidance through your intuition will sometimes put you at odds with everyone around you. Your intuition might tell you to leave when everyone thinks you should stay, to speak when everyone wants you to be quiet, to take the risk when everyone thinks you should play it safe, to forgive when everyone thinks you should hold the grudge, to let go when everyone thinks you should fight harder. And you'll have to choose. Every single time. Between what your intuition knows and what everyone else thinks. Between divine guidance and human opinion. Between your truth and their expectations. And those choices will define your life. They'll determine whether you live authentically or perform for an audience. Whether you fulfill your purpose or play it safe. Whether you trust God or trust fear. Because that's really what it comes down to. Fear or faith, mind or intuition, ego or soul, and you get to choose in every moment. No one can make that choice for you. No one can force you to listen to your intuition. No one can compel you to trust divine guidance. It has to be your choice, your commitment, your practice. And it is a practice. You don't just decide once to trust your intuition and then you're done. You practice it daily, moment by moment, decision by decision. You practice pausing before you react. You practice checking in with yourself before you agree or commit or decide. You practice noticing how things feel in your body instead of just what they sound like in your mind. Start small. You don't have to make massive life changes based on intuition right away. Start with the little decisions. Where to eat lunch, which route to take home, who to call, what book to read. These small choices are your training ground. They're where you build the muscle of trusting yourself. They're where you learn what your intuition feels like without the pressure of high-stakes decisions. And here's what you'll discover. Your intuition is right about the small things. Consistently, you'll choose the restaurant that has exactly what you needed that day. You'll take the route that avoids the traffic jam you didn't know about. You'll call the person who was just thinking about you and needed to hear your voice. You'll pick up the book that contains the exact message you needed in that moment. These aren't accidents. They're not lucky guesses. They're evidence. Evidence that you're connected to intelligence beyond your personal knowing. Evidence that divine guidance is real and available and accurate. And as you accumulate this evidence through small decisions, your confidence grows, your trust deepens, your willingness to follow intuition on bigger things increases. This is how you build an unshakable relationship with divine guidance, not through dramatic leaps of faith that terrify you, but through consistent small acts of trust that prove to you over and over again that your intuition knows things you don't, that it sees what you can't see, that it's guiding you toward outcomes that serve you in ways you couldn't have predicted. And then, when the big intuitive hits come, when you get that knowing about a major life decision, When divine guidance asks you to make a significant change, you'll have a foundation of trust to stand on. You'll have evidence from hundreds of small decisions that your intuition is reliable. You'll know from lived experience that following this inner guidance leads you exactly where you need to be. You practice distinguishing between fear and intuition because they can feel similar at first. They both create strong sensations. They both demand your attention, but they're fundamentally different. Fear constricts, intuition expands. Fear comes from ego, intuition comes from soul. Fear tries to keep you small and safe. Intuition calls you toward growth and truth. Learning to tell the difference is crucial, because if you mistake fear for intuition, you'll stay stuck in patterns that don't serve you. You'll avoid experiences that would help you grow. You'll listen to the voice that wants to protect you from discomfort instead of the voice that wants to guide you toward your destiny. Fear speaks in ultimatums. It says you have to do this, or that will happen. It creates urgency based on worst-case scenarios. It makes you feel trapped, cornered, like you have no choice. Intuition, on the other hand, speaks in invitations. It says this is the way. It feels like an opening, a possibility. Even when it's challenging, there's a sense of expansion in it, of rightness, of truth. Pay attention to that feeling. That's your compass. Fear feels tight in your chest, makes your breathing shallow, creates tension in your shoulders and your jaw. Intuition feels different. Even when it's uncomfortable, there's a clarity to it, a certainty, a knowing that exists beneath the surface anxiety your mind might be creating about it. Your body knows the difference before your mind does. Your body is always receiving divine guidance, always processing information that your conscious mind hasn't caught up with yet. This is why you get that feeling in your gut, that sensation in your solar plexus, that weight in your chest when something's off, that lightness when something's right. Your body is the receiver, your mind is just the interpreter. And your mind often gets the interpretation wrong because it's filtering everything through fear and conditioning. So learn to trust your body's wisdom. When you're making a decision, don't just think about it. Feel into it. Notice what happens in your body when you consider different options. Does your energy expand or contract? Does your breathing deepen or become shallow? Do you feel heavier or lighter? These physical sensations are intuitive guidance, expressing itself through your nervous system. You might think about taking a certain job and feel your whole body say no, even though the job looks perfect on paper. You might consider ending a relationship and feel a sense of relief wash over you, even though your mind is listing all the reasons why you shouldn't. You might contemplate moving to a new city and feel your energy lift, even though you can't logically explain why it feels right. That's your body receiving divine guidance. That's intuition speaking in the language your soul understands. But you've been taught to override those signals, to ignore your body's wisdom in favor of your mind's logic, to dismiss physical sensations as irrelevant to decision-making. And that disconnect has cost you dearly. Because when you're not listening to your body, you're not listening to the primary channel through which divine intelligence communicates with you. But if you can learn to recognize intuition, to feel its quality, to trust its guidance, you'll navigate life with a wisdom that transcends your personal experience. You'll make decisions that serve your highest good even when you don't understand why. You'll be guided to people and places and opportunities that your conscious mind couldn't have orchestrated. You'll experience the magic of divine coordination in your life. And that's what happens when you truly trust that God speaks through intuition. Your life becomes a conversation, an ongoing dialogue between you and the divine. A partnership, a collaboration. You're not doing it alone anymore. You're not trying to figure everything out with your limited human understanding. You're accessing infinite intelligence. You're being guided by love itself. You're following a path that was designed specifically for you. This is what you came here for. Not to live someone else's life. Not to meet someone else's expectations. Not to fulfill someone else's definition of success. You came here to express your unique essence. To fulfill your specific purpose. To walk your particular path. And the only way to do that is to listen to the guidance that's unique to you, your intuition. No one else can tell you what's right for you. They can offer perspective. They can share experience. They can provide information. But they can't know what you know. They can't feel what you feel. They can't access the divine guidance that's coming through you. Only you can do that. So stop giving away your power. Stop seeking validation for what you already know. Stop doubting the wisdom that rises up inside you. Stop treating your intuition like it's less reliable than someone else's logic. It's not. It's infinitely more reliable. Because it's connected to the source of all wisdom, God, the universe, infinite intelligence, whatever you want to call it. That intelligence loves you, is guiding you, is speaking to you constantly through your intuition. And all you have to do is listen, trust, act, take the next step even when you can't see the whole staircase. Follow the breadcrumbs even when you don't know where they lead. Honor the knowing even when you can't explain it. This is your invitation, your calling, your path home to yourself, not the self that's been conditioned and shaped by external forces, but your true self, the one that's connected to the divine, the one that knows why you're here, the one that remembers what you came to do. That self speaks through your intuition, and it's been waiting your whole life for you to finally listen. So listen, right now, in this moment. What is your intuition telling you? What have you been knowing but not acknowledging? What truth have you been avoiding? What step have you been resisting? What change have you been postponing? What call have you been ignoring? Feel into it. Don't think about it. Feel it. Where is that knowing in your body? What does it feel like? What is it asking of you? And most importantly, are you willing to honor it? Are you willing to trust it? Are you willing to act on it even if it scares you, even if no one understands, even if you can't prove it's right? Because that's where your freedom lives. That's where your truth lives. That's where your purpose lives. In that willingness to trust the divine guidance that speaks through your intuition. In that courage to follow your inner knowing, even when it goes against everything external. In that faith that you are being led, guided, supported by an intelligence that wants nothing but your highest good. You are not alone. You have never been alone. God has been speaking to you your entire life. Through your intuition, through that quiet voice, through that deep knowing. And it's time to stop pretending you don't hear it. It's time to stop dismissing it as coincidence, or wishful thinking, or your imagination. It's time to recognize it for what it is. Divine communication. Personal. Direct. Always available. Your intuition is your direct line to God. Use it. Trust it. Follow it. And watch how your life transforms when you finally align with the guidance that's been there all along, waiting patiently for you to come home to yourself.